Hello, I am Jody, and I am the social media person for an organization called Solidarity.
And I'm Ivan. I'm a member of Solidarity's National Committee, and I'm glad to be here with Jody.
Yeah, and just for anybody who doesn't know about us, Solidarity is a socialist, feminist, anti-racist organization that believes in socialism from below. You are about to watch an interview with Lynn Tramonte from the Ohio Immigrant Alliance. The reason that we wanted to do this interview is because me, as somebody in Ohio, I will see lots of reports about what's happening in Minneapolis and other places across the country, but I have to look to local organizations to figure out what's happening in my own backyard. So, Ohio Immigrant Alliance is one of those organizations, and their director, Lynn Tramonte, was able to make time to speak with us about her experiences there. So, we've experienced something called Operation Buckeye in Ohio. That started in December, and since then, we've seen like small waves of them coming back to keep doing that. This has largely impacted big areas like Columbus, and other large cities. But even in rural areas, we will occasionally hear of a story that breaks through into the media or see signs of potential ICE activity in our areas. So, with all of that being said, that's why I'm grateful for Ohio Immigrant Alliance and Lynn's work in keeping us informed. And I'm going to hand it over to Ivan now to explain why this matters to the larger left.
We all followed the uh, powerful defense movement of migrant communities in Minneapolis that resulted after Trump's surge, a major attack on migrants there that was so public and involved hundreds and thousands of people on both sides of this major struggle. But this is kind of just the tip of the iceberg of what's happening with ICE attacks and terror campaigns against migrant communities throughout the United States. So I think the Ohio example is really illustrative of the subterranean, underground, ongoing, always attacks on migrant communities under the Trump administration, but even in the bipartisan way, the long-term Democrat, Republican, regular machinery of detention and deportation of migrants. And along with that kind of subterranean underground attacks, there's also a not underground in a secret way, but not publicly announced and celebrated movement. There's regular work that occurs from organizations like the Ohio Immigrant Alliance. And this work isn't always broadcast on social media. It's confidential for practical reasons, political reasons, for the reasons of the safety of the migrant people being defended. So I think talking with Lynn helps us get a sense of what those defense efforts are that are a critical kind of foundation of the migrant defense movement overall. So I'm really grateful that Jody's been able to interview Lynn so we can get a kind of snapshot of this regular work that's going on in Ohio and in every state throughout the U.S.
Yeah, so we'll welcome Lynn now. Today, we have Lynn Tramonte. She was born and raised in Ohio and has 3 decades of experience in strategic communications, primarily working for nonprofit immigration organizations at the national, state, and local levels. She has written and published everything from hashtags to books and coached others to bring their words to life as well. And Lynn started the Ohio Immigrant Alliance in 2007. OIA is an anti-racist organization that brings together immigrants and allies working to make Ohio a better place for all. She is the organization's primary strategist, capacity builder, and communicator. Lynn also leads a statewide table of immigrant rights leaders and the organization's immigration, jail monitoring, and abolition work, among many other things. So, hello, Lynn. Welcome.
Hi.
All right. So the reason that I wanted to interview you today was so you can kind of give our audience an update about what is happening with ICE in Ohio. You're kind of the main person that I look to for information about that. So let's start there just with a general question. What the heck is going on?
Right. So you're not seeing in Ohio the mass deployment of ICE agents in all of our communities yet, except for Columbus. Columbus had experienced right before Christmas a surge similar to Minneapolis, where agents were roaming the streets, pulling people over, asking for their immigration paperwork. And more than 200 people were arrested in this operation. The vast, vast majority of them had no criminal history, and many of them had legal work permits. It's been devastating. But around Ohio, what you'll see is pockets of arrests. I mean, ICE and the Border Patrol are active every single day, arresting people in our communities. They take them to county jails in Ohio where they get booked in, even though they're not being charged with a crime. The immigration laws that they are enforcing are civil, not criminal. Yet people are being put in criminal jails, taken away from their families and their jobs, and basically left there to rot. The strategy of the government is to try to get them to give up on their immigration cases and agree to deportation.
Yeah. Ugh, I've read some of your statements about that, and it's just so devastating to hear what's going on. But maybe on the more hopeful side of things, what is your organization doing about it?
Yeah, so the first thing we did was we created a resource website called ohioishome.org, and that has tools for anybody who's concerned about what's going on. Whether you are an immigrant worried about being arrested, you are a business owner worried about ICE coming into your place of employment, a community-facing group, there are resources and information there for you. We have to understand that people can be here legally and subject to deportation at the same time. The system is extremely confused and illogical. So, an employer might have somebody employed legally with a work permit, and that person could still be arrested by immigration and put in jail. So, everybody needs to learn their rights. There are things we can do, including if you are a business owner, making parts of your business marked off as private only. ICE is not getting judicial warrants to enter businesses. They are just coming in and bullying people and saying, we want to talk to your employees. You do not have to let them. We also established a hotline that people can call if they have questions, they need a speaker, if something happens and they need help. It's called the Ohio Immigrant Hotline. You can email it at hotline@ohioimmigrant.org, or you can call or text it at 419-777-HELP, HELP. And we're getting all kinds of phone calls and emails. We're getting calls from people who cannot find their loved ones. You know, dad went to work and never came home. Was he arrested by ICE? How can we find out? We're getting calls from people, especially women who are trying to keep their families together, take care of the kids, pay the bills while the breadwinner is in immigration jail. So people are seeking any sort of help they can get. We get calls from people who want to volunteer. I think that's the what's really cool about the hotline is that we do get lots of Ohioans who just call and say, "Thank you for doing the work you're doing," or "How can I donate? How can I help?" Ohio, to me, it has a strong spirit of volunteerism. People around the state are opening their homes and their hearts, accompanying immigrants to court hearings and immigration check-ins and really showing up for their neighbors. And so the hotline is just a focal point people can use to get connected to our work.
Absolutely. And then I love that you're doing all of that work. Are there any other organizations in Ohio that people should be looking to right now for updates and other resources?
Yeah, we actually have on ohioishome.org a list of local groups by region. So you can go on ohioishome.org and see who is doing the work in your local area. And that's really how we recommend people get involved, is locally in their community. Right now, a lot of the immigrant protection work and community building is happening offline, person to person or through networks that aren't, it's not visible on Instagram, for example. So getting involved locally is the best way to start. And there's ways you can help, whether you can leave your house or not. I know some people don't have transportation problems or have a hard time leaving their house. There are things you can do from home to be helpful as well.
Yeah, there's room for everybody to help right now. It's just a matter of figuring out where your skills and talents can best be used. We kind of spoke to the next question already, which is how is the situation in Ohio different to and similar to what's happening in Minnesota? Did you have anything that you wanted to add about that?
Yeah, one thing I did want to highlight is a very disturbing trend by ICE of going into communities and trying to pull somebody over like they're doing a traffic stop.
Hmm.
That's not their job to enforce traffic laws. And what they're doing is they're actually just looking for people who they think might be immigrants. So they're usually using racial profiling to find people. So imagine this, you're driving down the street and suddenly somebody in a car behind you, it doesn't look like a police car, starts speeding up. And then maybe they put on some lights inside their car and they try to pull you over. I mean, your first instinct is to run. I know that when I was learning how to drive, my parents told me, don't stop if somebody in an unmarked car is trying to pull you over. Drive to the nearest police station because criminals use that tactic
Hmm.
to pull people over to harm them. So ICE is doing that, and it's actually killing people. This happened in Minnesota. They've caused car accidents and people got injured. Most recently in Georgia, Dr. Linda Davis was killed when ICE initiated a high-speed car chase in a community where where law enforcement is not allowed to do high-speed chases because it's dangerous to the public. And this happened in Columbus as well. So this is an example of how ICE is endangering the entire community, simply to enforce a civil immigration law. And I just think it's so dangerous. And as Congress did appropriate more money for ICE several months ago, we're getting more and more agents with less training, and their bosses actually do not care if they hurt people. That's been become clear. So we now are in a situation where we have federal agents who are empowered to chase people in the streets of our communities to the point of killing people just to enforce a civil law. It's crazy. We don't do that for tax law, housing law, domestic relations. Those are other forms of civil laws. You would never give an IRS agent a mask and a gun and an unmarked vehicle and tell them to go out and chase people they suspect haven't paid their taxes. It's just ridiculous. But that's what we're doing with immigration law, and it's dangerous.
Hmm. And it seems like it doesn't make sense what all is happening until you start to think about the political goals of why this is all happening right now and who it's happening to. And maybe if you want to speak to that a little bit, I think that would be interesting for our audience to hear.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot because lately I've seen a lot of examples of people who voted for Trump, but their wives or other loved ones are being arrested by immigration. And they're pleading with the public and saying, this isn't supposed to be what we're doing. My wife is a great person. She doesn't deserve to be in jail. She doesn't deserve to be deported. So there's this plausible deniability that some people have. Yes, Trump said he was going to focus on the worst of the worst. He also said that every immigrant is a criminal. So those of us who were paying attention knew about Project 2025. We knew that their goal was to implement mass deportation, not targeted deportations. The Biden administration was doing targeted deportations. The Trump administration is not only arresting anybody they can, but they're actually canceling immigration legal programs so that more people become undocumented so that they could be deported. And I am with you, it does not make sense. But that's what's going on. I swear to
Mhm.
you. I mean, I live this, I work this every day, and these are the kinds of things that are happening.
Mhm. And we've been talking a lot in solidarity. Like the person that I interviewed last, his name is Malik, and he was talking about how it always goes back to labor. When the United States needs more workers, we let people come in, and then when we decide that we don't need them, we force them out, deport them, what have you. So, yeah, it's really devastating to see. But to maybe lighten the conversation a little bit, we can go back to talking about the positive work that you're doing to counter this. I saw a few tabs on the OIA website and I just wrote them down and I wanted to just kind of go through them and you can explain to me what each one means and the work you're doing with that. So the first one is called community protection. So tell me more about that.
Right. So this is the belief and the value we have that we are the people who keep us safe.
Mm.
We know our communities best. We have relationships with law enforcement, elected officials, hospitals, etc. And local communities know what they need. So this is where we create things like the ohioishome.org website, the Ohio Immigrant Hotline. We do trainings for groups like social workers, educators, businesses about how they can stay focused on their core mission and not become arms of the immigration police. And we're all, nobody's going to save us, right? No, there's not going to be somebody coming from Washington, D.C. to wave a magic wand and fix everything. So we are the ones that we can trust right now. I do want to say, though, that there's a real lack of leadership from our congressional, especially our U.S. senators and our some of our House members, because Senator Moreno and Senator Husted, all they're doing right now is complaining about immigrants, spreading lies about immigrants, using public benefits that they don't qualify for. And they're not actually doing their job, which is to fix the immigration laws. It like we talked about, they don't currently make sense. There is no way for people who've been here for a long time to get access to permanent legal status. The visa programs we have are from last century. There's no way for people to come here to work in a factory, come here to work in a restaurant, in other occupations where a lot of immigrants are working. There's no legal visa for them to do it. So
Mhm.
we accept people's labor and then we turn around and say they should be deported. And I think that the fault also lies with Congress for not doing their job to make a rational immigration system.
Absolutely. It's definitely a race to the bottom. It's devastating. Um, but what more can you tell me about the next tab that you have on your website, which is freedom advocacy? I know there's lots of cool work about that happening in Ohio.
Yeah, so this is where we just can't wrap our heads around this idea that we're putting people in criminal jails who are never going to be charged with a crime.
Mhm.
Putting somebody in jail is extreme. The food, the deprivation of liberty, the lack of control over your life. I mean, it's a punishment in and of itself. But for immigrants who are put in immigration jail, they have the added stress of it being an indefinite sentence. They don't know when they're getting out because they're in jail for the duration of their immigration case, which could take months, it could take years. So the government is using incarceration as a weapon to get people to give up on their cases more quickly and agree to leave the country. And our counties are participating in this, and they see people as a way to make a profit and to keep justifying the use of their jail. So Butler County is a great example. That jail has expanded. They've opened up new annexes to house hundreds of immigrants because they see them as dollar signs, not people. And then they cut corners. They give them horrible food that's absolutely inedible. They don't give them medical treatment for chronic conditions like cancer, diabetes, things that they're coming into the jail with. And people are saying, get me out of here. I'll sign whatever paper you want. I don't want to die in jail.
Mhm. And we're seeing that all over the country, not just in Ohio. But in Ohio, I think it's important to point out too that Butler County, I think, is close enough to Cincinnati that people think it's still a big city. But this isn't just happening in the cities. This is happening everywhere. Um, yeah. Do you want to speak to that any? Like, do you have any messages for
Yeah.
rural Ohioans that might be thinking that this isn't their fight and this isn't their problem right now?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, there's jails all throughout Ohio. There's about six jails that have immigrants detained for ICE, including in rural parts of Ohio. Seneca County, Jaga County, Mahoning County Jail has immigrants as well. And so, like we talked about, this is really a way for these counties to make money so that they can justify keeping their jails open Instead of consolidating jails in Ohio, we have 88 counties and we have about 69 county jails. We don't have the crime base to sustain that. We should close some of the jails, consolidate jails. You can have multi-county jails. Not every sheriff needs his own fiefdom. He doesn't need his own jail. And, it's not okay that we just put up with this system because it's already existed or because we think it only impacts people who weren't born here. It's just not okay to profit off of people, putting people in incarceration and expanding the carceral system when it just doesn't help anybody get
Hmm.
better or do anything better.
Yeah, and if we didn't put so much into the carceral system, then maybe we could put more into other kinds of infrastructure that uplifts our communities. Absolutely. And that brings us right to the systemic change portion of your work. So, can you tell me more about that?
Sure. So we're not just talking about what we're against and what we don't want to happen. We're also talking about what we're for. And we have published original research about solutions to the immigration system. We speak out frequently about what Congress needs to do to fix the immigration laws. And basically, it needs to be simplified.
Hmm.
And the system needs to be oriented with the understanding that immigration is going to happen. You're not going to stop it or end it, but there's a way to help it be legal, orderly, fair, dignified. Right now, you cannot request asylum in the United States unless you are here. You can't request it from another country. So it forces people to take this dangerous journey to a border to request asylum instead of being able to apply from their home countries. The Biden administration did implement some programs that made legal immigration from a few countries safer. It was called the parole program, which is a horrible name, but that's the technical aspect in immigration law that was used. But it was only for people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. However, it really did ease the pressure on the border from people from these countries because they were able to come safely and legally on an airplane instead of coming to the border and taking their chances with an asylum hearing. So we need more legal immigration to facilitate it instead of pretending that we're going to end immigration, which is our current policy, is trying to just limit it as much as possible.
Yeah. That's great. I love reading about the work that you guys are doing. I'm subscribed to the newsletter. It's so like it's as devastating as it is to see all the bad things. It really is empowering to know that there's steps like we were talking about earlier that you can take even if you're homebound that will help even just a little bit. The last tab that I wanted you to talk about on the website is called Pathways Home. So can you share more about that with me?
Yeah. So during the first Trump administration, many people were deported who had long time ties in the United States, who had children born here, spouses from here. And it was really devastating because the Trump administration enforces immigration laws differently than some of the other administrations. So you had more people being deported who had all these ties to the United States. And we've seen families really fall apart, kids who are mad at dad because he got deported. They don't understand why he left. Men who were used to taking care of their families and being the breadwinner and provider, turning into beggars on the streets in their native countries, trying to find jobs and just not being able to take care of themselves, much less their families. And it's also unnecessary. It didn't need to happen that way. There could have been a way for people to improve their status in the country through a legal process. So what we're saying is that there should be a process for people who were deported to apply to return to their families in the United States. Deportation should not be a permanent lifetime banishment from everybody that you know and love. And it's really inspiring because the people who are leading this effort are the people who were deported and they love this country. They don't like how they were treated by the laws, but they don't fault the country for that. They really, have made great relationships here and want to come back and live safely in this country. You can learn more about it at reunite.us. And we actually wrote a book. We interviewed 255 people who were deported and wrote a book about their experiences, which you can read for free on the website.
Yeah, is that the Our Stories tab, or is that a different?
Well, our stories is a bigger version of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's called Broken Hope, Deportation, and the Road Home.
Cool. Yeah. If anybody watching just wants to go check out the website, I totally encourage that. You could click around on there and see lots of the cool work that you guys are doing. And then that was kind of the last of my questions, but I wanted to give you a chance to just kind of speak about anything else that you feel like might be important while I have you here. So yeah, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So we also do arts and culture events and programs. We got a couple things coming up I'm really excited about. One is that we're publishing a coloring book. It's drawn by a high school student in Cincinnati. It's called Ohio
Awesome.
is My Second Country. I know. And what he did is he asked his friends who are from a whole bunch of different countries. He's from Burundi. What is some scene from your home country that you think really represents it? And then he's drawing the scenes. And we are also writing text to go with it to teach people a few words in the language of the country that's depicted. So that will come out sometime this year, hopefully before the summer. And the second project we're working on, so I have tattoos. I don't know if you do or if your
Yeah, I have
listeners
some. You
do.
just can't see them right now.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people do. And it's tattoos are something that cross cultures, cross races, religions. I mean, except for Muslim people, usually don't have tattoos, but other people, use tattoos in different ways. And what I thought was so sad was that, our government was arresting people from Venezuela based solely on tattoos and calling them gang members.
Mhm.
And when I was noting and reading about all the folks who were being arrested, is that their tattoos were actually uh, symbols of their families, right? There were, their children's birth dates, there were pictures of their mother, there was other symbols that were very meaningful to them and that were very actually showed them to be very caring people. And we now know, of course, that they were not gang members. They were just called that by the administration in order to be able to send them to a gulag in El Salvador, where they were tortured. But we will announce a project soon that is for tattoo artists to enter a contest to design an immigrant solidarity tattoo. And then we have a panel of experts who will pick the winners. And we will produce a temporary tattoo booklet as well as the stencils that people can get if they want to actually get the tattoo on their body.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping that people really take this on and that we have a symbol that people can put on their bodies that shows they stand with immigrants. And I think we are the first people to even think of it or come up with it. So I'm really excited about it. We'll be announcing that in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear about. And I love that you're taking something that has been villainized on these people that are being harmed and you're kind of like reclaiming it and making it a symbol of hope. That's so cool. And I will be looking for this coloring book too.
Okay.
So before we say our goodbyes, do you want to just remind the people where they can find you?
Yeah. Our website is ohioimmigrant.org. That's our main website where the different program areas are housed and our blog. We do updates constantly. I'm actually working on one right now. You can also sign up for our email list at the website, and we don't email people all the time. Store the information up and then we send stuff out when it's important. Our resource website is ohioishome.org. And that's where you can find all the information you need to be able to understand your rights as an immigrant, a business owner, a community organization, even an activist, somebody who's observing an immigration action happening on the street. You have rights. And we have tools in there to teach you what your rights are and how you can try to do it the safest way possible. Unfortunately, the way the federal government is acting, nobody can guarantee that doing anything is safe anymore. And it's really, really terrifying. I mean, I just wrote a piece and we have a video out that we just put out last week about how, I don't know if you saw Ramesa Ozturk when she was kidnapped off the streets of Somerville, Massachusetts. This was about a year ago.
Yeah.
This is a student. She just completed her doctorate, by the way,
Yeah.
but she was pulled off the streets by unmarked, not in uniform, masked agents and thrown into a vehicle. And as a woman, that's our worst nightmare, right? When
Mhm.
we are walking around in the city, we're looking around and we're making sure nobody's going to do something to us. So um, I don't know. I mean, I guess I just wanted to say that like there's a better way to enforce immigration laws. It should be done in a courtroom, in an office building, and one by one. It shouldn't be on our streets. We shouldn't be pulling people out of vehicles. We
Mhm.
shouldn't be putting the entire public at danger through these high-speed car chases. So I think that's something everybody can get behind, whether you voted for Trump or not, whether you believe the immigration system is good currently or if it needs reform. We can all agree that the tactics ICE is using right now are dangerous and terrifying, and they don't have a place in civil law enforcement.
Mhm. Absolutely. And I think a lot of the work that we do is obviously all the stuff we talked about, but it's also helping people see that like we have things in common. We can agree on things. It's not just we don't just have to be arguing with each other all the time. If you're somebody that lives in a community, these things should make sense to you if you care about your community. So, I'm glad that you pointed that out. All right. So, I think that's all I have for today. So, thank you for sharing your time with me.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, of course.
So this interview with Lynn was recorded in March of 2026. Of course, the struggles are ongoing since then, and you can find updates on the ohioimmigrant.org website.
Yeah, and when you go to that website, you'll find two things, two kind of fundraisers that are happening now or soon, depending on when you watch this, that you can support their work even more with. The first one is a coloring book that is going to be released in late spring, according to their website. It's called Ohio is My Second Country, and it was designed by Cincinnati youth named Shima Asafiwa. The title comes from a quote that was said by a Columbus father who was deported to Mauritania in the first Trump administration. The second fundraiser opportunity that you can support on Ohio Immigrant Alliance's website is the Brave of Us tattoo contest. Yes, you heard that right, a tattoo contest. So Lynn talked about this a little bit more in the interview, so you can learn about that more from her. But they're accepting designs from now until June 30th. Anybody from any state can submit a design, and this is a great way to show solidarity with the immigrant and migrant communities.
Thank you for watching this interview. Please do pass it on, share it with your comrades, pass it on social media.
Yeah, if you want to find any more of Solidarity's social media, we have a Linktree link. A Linktree is just a big link where you can put all of your other links into it. We have that in the bio of all of our social media accounts, including our YouTube, where you're watching this video now. And if you want to learn more about Solidarity, just go to solidarity-us.org and learn more about us. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.